Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone is doing fine. It's Saturday morning that we are meeting on. Can I quickly get a yes or a no in a Q&A section because we have turned that on? Am I audible? Can you all hear me properly? Perfect. So I see quite a few people joining in. So to chat with me, or if you have any questions, anything that you want to ask for, just simply type it out on the chat box or chat Q&A section, I'd say, where we can answer your questions. All right. We'll just start in a couple of minutes. We are waiting for a few more people to join in. So I hope that everyone is aware about today's topic for the Guru class. We have our trainer, Swati, who will be starting the class shortly. All right, so we should start. We have a lot of people joined in. We have our trainer Swati with us, who will be taking it forward from here on. I will be your host. In case you have any questions, please feel free to type it down on Q&A. I will answer it live, or Swati will answer it live. Doesn't matter if the question is regards to the topic. It can be technical. It can be anything related to your career or any opportunities that you have. So we can go through that. All right, then let's get started. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So I'm your trainer. I am the facilitator for our today's Guru class. So a little about, as we move forward, so I'm going to talk a little about myself. So I'm just a little obsessed. So coming from an engineering background, and currently pursuing my master's in data science, I've started my career as a full stack developer. And, I was involved with the fintech and the banking processes. But going forward, I've always realized that facilitation was something that I was more drawn towards, and the research field. So that hence, made a career shift for me, and I've moved to a trainer profile as I'm currently a senior expert and a training expert at Unikaksha, and it's past couple of years since I have been, practicing and sharpening my skills in this domain. Now, moving on, that was about me. You should, have an introduction about me. Then going on for our today's, Guru class, the agenda is a beginner's guide to progressive web application development. Before we move on to the progressive part, we should be aware about what exactly web application development is and the process it involves. So that would have been an experience with, I think many of us, if I'm not mistaken over there, that have you ever had an amazing web app idea? So I think we all, try to have these notions about ourselves, that why not, build something like, maybe a food delivery app or kind of like that, a e-commerce website, start our own business over there. But later we realize that, what we are lacking to just build that application, build that website maybe, is the technical know how to build it, right? So we've all been there. I was in that position where I actually thought, let's start something, let's build something. But then at that time, it was a very novice period of mine where I didn't have that much, experience. I didn't have that much, I was not that much, tech savvy about it. So the reality is that a good idea can only take you so far as, you could say, there is a former CEO of Oracle Corporation who once said that without execution, vision is just another word for hallucination. So if you're not trying to, execute any of your ideas, we have a number of ideas. We have business ideas also every now and then, let's do this. Let's start with this. Let's start our own startup. But do we even have the, I would not say ability, but the tech ability to move into that, direction? So without execution, anything, whatever you are visioning, whatever you're thinking for yourself, it just remains a hallucination, according to Mark, right? Now, thankfully, technology has evolved, and building our own web apps doesn't have to be so complicated now. It doesn't have to be so complicated. So moving on in this session, we'll also be talking about low code or no code platforms, which can enable anyone, just anyone who's just willing to learn, who's just willing to execute their ideas to make their own beautiful websites. So in this web development guide today, we are going to review what web apps are, what is the process which is involved in the web app development, and how we can start building our own web apps. You started with a tech savvy way, or you go to the low code or no code, tools. So let's start with the basics. Right now, to delve into the basic is actually important. Now, the first thing that comes to me is I'm talking about web application development and, building web apps. But what exactly is web application? So web application or web apps are interactive computer programs, that are running on a remote server. Okay. Contrary to any computer-based programs that run locally on or the softwares which we call that run locally on the end user machine. So web apps, they're not running exactly on your machine. You're just viewing that using the service, but they're running on a different server. Now, I'm sorry, they can be accessed through a web browser. So we all know what a web browser is, right? Like Chrome we have. So we open up a Chrome, we write Amazon over there, and we are accessing the web app over there. So with the help of an internet connection as well. Now think about, using your laptop to check your email, or you want to shop online, or maybe access your, bank account, do net banking. Now, all these actions which are there, they most likely involve the use of web application. Okay. I think, if you guys are aware with net banking, with the advent of UPI, I don't usually now do net banking. So I'm not sure with it. But you have these, web apps for various banks, like for ICICI, for HDFC, for etc. Those are also web applications that we go on and try to transact. Okay. Now, let's take a second look on the, types of web applications. Now, getting an idea of what is a web application. Now, let's discuss how many types of web application there are. So there are basically two broad categories of, web application. One is your static web application and another is your dynamic web application. So while the first is quite straightforward, dynamic web apps are much more complex and you could say diverse. Okay. So without going deep into the technicalities over here of, how and, how to build them maybe and what, exactly all the technology goes into making them. Let's understand the difference between the two, which is actually important. You should be able to distinguish between two, right, at any point of time. So static web application, now here, as the name, it suggests that static webs are, web apps, they are most, flexible, you could say. They are generally built on the common front-end technology like HTML, CSS, and maybe a little bit use of JS. They have the limited interactivity, for the end users to interact over there. They are difficult to update every now and then, and they are going to appear the same for each one of us, right? So any kind of like a blog. So a blog is a static web application, you could say. So you go to a food blog, maybe that is a static web app. It's same for each one of us, right? I open any blog, that's same for me. It's going to be same for you. So while limited, these static web apps, they are still a great option when creating websites that don't require interactions. Okay, maybe something like making your own portfolios. Yeah. So nowadays, these web portfolios are very much in demand. Instead of handing out a piece of paper or just sending in your saved copy of your resume, you can even create a very good looking resume or your portfolio that can be hosted, and you would just share the URL for it. So that's a static web application. So I'm just going to move forward. Let me open up a whiteboard for you guys. Just a moment. Okay, so for the types, we've talked about two, right? One is static and another is dynamic. So static, we've already talked about. There is not much interactivity involved in building a static website, okay? Or sorry, static web app. But they are still a great option when you want to create websites that does not have much interaction and they have to be same for all the end users which are there, okay? Now the next kind is a dynamic web application. Dynamic web application, they offer a wider range of possibilities over here. These type of application, they can be able to, fetch data, again, they can interact or connect with different APIs, the endpoints over here. There are real-time changes that are happening on the application. Fine. So whether it's performing a search or, for example, Instagram, there it's real time, right? Maybe Facebook, it's real time. It's not static. It's changing every second. And even I would say 1/10 of a second, it's changing, the data on it. You are liking something, you are posting something, and not just you, all of us who are accessing that. So there are millions and millions users just for this social networking site. And they are performing the activities in just, you could say, in fractions of seconds, and it's getting changed. There is a change in the website. It's different for me, what I see on my Facebook, and it's different for you, right? So it's not same. It's a dynamic web app again. So subtypes of dynamic web application, there are subtypes also. It's not just, there are different that you are going to learn about as you'll proceed into the course. You have SPAs, which is single page application. Now, appropriately named SPAs, they allow users to interact with a web app from a single page, right? So there is a single page, you are trying to interact with a web application from that single page only. Now, they are usually significantly quicker. They're quicker compared to the traditional web apps that we have been working on, or, which have been existing so far. So here again, the example is social networks, the email service, or something like Google Map. Okay, that is again, or the map services that we have, I'm sorry. So these are like a single page applications. Then you have a multi-page or MPA. Okay, now MPA again. So with logic, working in the backend over here, they include several pages. For SPA, it was a single page and there was a whole interactivity for the web application that you require. But for in an MPA, there are several pages, and reload is also involved, or you could say re-rendering is involved when any changes are made to it. They are highly secure and fit for portal development. Okay, like creating any web portals, or maybe like an e-commerce stores or online stores for enterprise applications. So multi-page application, they come into play. Then the next time is portal web application. Now these, application, they feature different sections and categories. And you could say they often require a login. For any portal, if you want to get inside a portal, you need a login, you need registration. So those are portal web application. Okay, maybe any website of a government, that's a portal web app, right? Like you have forums, you have chat forums, you have paid, payment platforms like Paytm. Just an example. These are web portals. They require you to have a login, which is secure, right? Then the last, what kind, you could say that I could think of is progressive web app. Fine. Now these apps, or the progressive web apps, they behave like the native application, despite being the web application. So if you're going to compare the PWAs to the native application, now these progressive web apps, they can be downloaded to a mobile device. They can be accessed and used offline. Native applications, the one that we use without any online support, without any internet connection, they're not hosted, you download and use them. Progressive web applications also, they can be downloaded on the devices, on your mobile devices. They can be accessed and used offline as well sometimes, but they don't require the same technologies as what you might have been using for the native applications. Okay. Now here, for building the progressive web app, a very good example or tool that you can use is called a software. Okay, this helps you to build a PWA from, you could say, your existing application in a few simple steps, you could say. So regardless of the type, there are clear benefits again, which are involved in using web applications. So for, creating or using web application, the first thing that comes up, you could say it's an advantage over here that you can count in, which is the lower dev cost or developmental cost. So web app development, it allows companies to, avoid the costly equipment and any infrastructure cost, which are, usually related to the building of any application. They can integrate with other systems. Integration is possible with other programs, and that is much easier, than with the, you could say, the native application or the desktop applications which we had. The maintenance is again easy maintenance. They are, they can be scaled and the flexibility is large. And there is a centralized security that you can work with. So web app security, it relies on the establishment on the host servers again. So they have to be regularly checked and, kept up by the dedicated companies which are using that hosting services or servers. So while native apps, they make sense in some of the other cases, for maybe like, you want to build any enterprise product, with an emphasis on data security, web apps have, you could say, they have become the norms now, that most of us, we are using these, you could say, web apps only. Like an example could be over here, again, for you have Airbnb. That's an example of a web app. Okay. So it's one of the biggest player, if you could say, Airbnb in the sharing economy. And it's a web app. You have Spotify. It's also a web app. Spotify, Airbnb. Then we have Airtable, if you know about. It's like, it's kind of like a spreadsheet and a database all in one. So that's again an example of web applications. So right now I'm just, open to taking any questions.
Right. Swati, can you hear me?
Yeah.
So we have a question on our YouTube chat from Dev Chauhan. So in that case, when you explain dynamic web applications, so all the e-commerce websites that we have are dynamic applications, right?
Yes, they are.
All right.
I mean, like if they are not dynamic, you only try to understand, will it not be, same for each one of us? How you're going to update your card, maybe build up your card, buy items out of it, make your favorite list on it. So it's dynamic.
All right. And there's another question which rises. I'm so sorry, I'm just breaking your flow. So in that case, what is the difference between a website, an application, and a web application?
Okay. So web application and website. So often people, we get confused between the two terms, website and web application. And it's common, it's common to have this kind of dilemma every now and then. Now, a website, it's basically a collection of several, interlinked web pages, which you can access around the globe, and they function under a single domain name, right? The development of a website can be done by a business entity, individual, depending upon who's the owner of the website. Now, every website is hosted on a server. It has a unique IP address. It comes with, you could say, they can be, accessed on multiple devices, tablets, desktops, and so on, so forth. So though a website as a whole is compatible with any device having a web browser, the actual support varies with the web development and optimization for different types. Again, in your websites, you have the two things, you have static websites, you have dynamic websites. Okay. Now, again, the next thing is, what is a web application? So it's a bigger term. It's a, bigger umbrella. So a web application, it's a program that comes with many or n number of interactive factors. There are distinctive features for the users to go. Though web apps, they are made by using some common web technologies, which are again similar to, what you've been doing for website. The web development method is quite complicated. It's not simple as just creating a simple website of, multiple pages that you are putting in together. Now, due to the additional features which you're going to add in a web application, the web application have the capability to store the user data as well. In a website, can you store a data? No. Provide the results as per the needs of the data. You can fetch the data, but the storage is a different story that you have to integrate into it. Now, moreover, you can customize your web application based on the type of the user. Now, every app that you are going to work on, or maybe a web app that you are going to, get an access on, has the ability to create, update, read, and delete app data whenever necessary asked by the user. Okay. Web application, they are responsive. They are going to adapt to the screen dimensions. Websites can also be responsive. That is, you should be aware about that as well. But web apps, they are more complicated. They have the ability to, single-handedly, manage the entire enterprise, you could say, um, you know, proceedings over it. You don't have to, website doesn't give you that flexibility. Like website doesn't play with the data at that much or at that level. Now, akin to websites, web applications are also, we've talked about, there are two types, static and dynamic. Now, due to several features and responsiveness, the majority of the web apps, they are dynamic, okay? And they need server-side processing. On the other hand, we've talked about static web apps. They exist as well, but they come with their limited features, right? They do not require the server-side processing. So compatibility, again, over here, to understand the difference in the two is in the integration, how they are integrated, right? So integration with other software system is done, and can they be integrated? At what level the integration can come in? What is the objective over here? What is the business decision for which you want to create any website or web application? That also decides whether you want to go for a website, simple website, or maybe a whole web app. The interaction possibility. So probably the most significant difference between a website and web app is its interactivity with the end users. The interaction over here is the key in a web application, right? So almost every web application is dynamic, as we've talked about, except some, which means that the user input can change the way how the web app displays the data for one person to the other. One of the biggest example of web app interaction is the e-commerce sites that we have, web application like Amazon. So the data displayed on the website, as I already talked about it, including the prices, the shipping charge, maybe the card information, the discounts, what you're getting, it's all manipulated. It's all different, sometimes related, based on user to user, right? So that is. Now, a website, on the other hand, it has a basic concept of providing you the text and visuals, right? Where you can grasp the data. Though they can read and see the text or image on the web page, but cannot change the way how the website looks, right? But on a web app, that's interactive. What you are trying to see, what you are trying to go on, and your interactivity will largely decide how that web app has to look for you on your end. For a website, you cannot do that. Okay. So you could say it's mostly hard coded that we say. Okay. The hosting is also different for both of them. The authentication that it requires, the development process is also, different. The user interface that we talk about, no matter how many useful features are added to the web application, and if the app is not user friendly, the user will not or it's not going to find the right features easily. Now, with that in mind, having an intuitive user interface and user design is also very necessary for building any web app or any website. So though having a better user interface is not harmful to a website, but a website doesn't need to perform better. For a web app, that's kind of, running continuously as you're trying to, get information out of it, maybe see something, maybe buy something, anything, whatever a web app is able to do, fetch something. There, the performance is also kept in mind when an application is running. For a website, you can ignore that part some or the other time. So having a better looking website along with relevant information is what matters the most in a website. For a web application, the performance is also the key, getting the right results and getting the right results maybe in an efficient time. So that is the basic difference. So it's mainly the web. When you talk about an application, it's an application that involves all aspects of how it should interact, how it should be able to fetch data, store data, maybe the manipulation of data. For a website, it's not required. Fine.
Understood. That's right. So we have Komal, who has asked questions in respect of what is the process to become a web developer, and what are the jobs we can get after becoming a web developer. We will answer that, Komal, but before that, we have a poll coming in. Do you want to enhance your career with web development? Just type in yes or no so that we can um, take it forward from there. I mean, Swati will answer it in this session, but if you want to have a one-on-one call setup where we can counsel you, how can you enhance your career, do let us know. All right, last 5 seconds, and then we'll move forward. All right, then. Thank you, guys. Swati, could you please answer the same question, that what is the process of becoming a web developer, and what are the jobs after
Sure.
this? All right,
Sure.
thank you.
So the process is pretty simple. You have to start learning something, and the process involves of how to become a web dev is basically start with HTML, CSS, and JS. Though how simple it sounds, how simple it seems, the basic knowledge is required. Any website, any web application, I would say anyone who wants to get into development for the web or for the front end, they need to have this prerequisites in them. Okay, so the first thing is learn the basics of HTML, CSS, and JS. So I hope that is something you might be aware of. Second, you can start with maybe kind of like getting the know or the frameworks or the JS frameworks, different libraries which are there. You can do that as well. So what are the frameworks? Because an intensive or you could say the extensive kind of approach of getting on started with something is also required. Just a basic knowledge will not take you that far. So get your hands dirty with JS libraries, the different frameworks that you can use for making more interactive and responsive web applications. Sometimes the use of WordPress also comes into play. To become a developer, you could say get familiar with WordPress. So it's an open source software, so you can also get into that. Get the difference between what is UI and what is UX. How can you start learning it? So what is user interface and user experience, and what are the basics of designing? So this is for your designing. So just the knowledge of developing something will or maybe the technology part is something that now when you are designing the front end, when you are making the front end, the user experiences also come into play. What the user want to see and how is going to interact, that also has to be thought about, that you are going to learn with UI and UX. So something like Canva, Figma, Adobe, you have Adobe Creative Suite, and kind of like those things you can get into that. So then the next thing is that is optional for a few of the front end developers to get on with maybe, but a little knowledge of back end should also be there. How your front end is going to react, how it's going to interact basically with the back end. So you could choose any language. You can go for Java, you can go for Python, PHP. I mean, like there are so many. You can choose any backend language for that. The next would be the DB interactivity or the DB connection. So like from my point of view, have a basic understanding, what exactly database is and what you can use, or what are the different, tools which are available for you to maybe start on with something like SQL. And for this, you can work with MySQL, maybe Oracle, or then you have Mongo. I mean, like whatever, the NoSQL, you can go for DB or the SQL or the basic one that we've been doing. So that is again the next thing. Some or the other time there is a term which is called as SEO, which is search engine optimization. So a knowledge of it would help you. This refers to the process of, improving a website's ranking, creating one, hosting one is not enough, right? You have to bring it forward, you could say, so that more people can reach your website. It's not kind of like you're just going to pick up the URL and paste it at different places for people to go through. No, you want it to come into the searches of them, so that they can interact, they can open those websites, generate revenue for you again. So the basics of SEO should also be there for you too. Then again, for building any web app for any website, now these days, as you know, we are working on different screens, right? The bigger, the small, we even cast it to the televisions now. So your websites again should be responsive. So responsive design should also be part of your learning process. How you can make the site responsive. That is the responsive design. Okay. So this is all the path that you can take for a successful web app developer. Okay, I know it might feel like a lot right now, but you'll actually start and you'll see it all become so easy once you're into it. Okay. I hope that clears up your doubt.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was the process we have understood. What are the kind of jobs that we can land on if we follow this process, and what's the general idea in India for the same?
The general idea when you start with web development is that you are going to become a web app developer. Yeah, so that could be a front-end developer that you're talking about. If you're too good, you can delve into the full stack path. But that doesn't limit you to try your hands into different thing. Like you can become an SEO specialist as well, if you are inclined towards it while you are learning. Or maybe you can become a designer, the UX designer or the UI designer. So the path is actually varied, so it doesn't stop you. It doesn't say that if you're just doing web app development, then you'll only be a web app developer. No, based on what is your interest. Maybe you start with web development right now, but along the way, if you'll see the path that I've laid out or the process that I've laid out over here, you'll see that you're starting with just the basic web development, but you are learning so much. You're also learning designing. So maybe while you are doing designing part, the UX designing, UI designing, you are more inclined towards it, and you choose to go into the designing. So then you'll become a UI UX developer. You can like backend more, while doing this, the whole course maybe, or the whole process. So you might become a backend developer. So the part is just laid out from the process itself over here. There are n number of things that you can go for and become. Maybe you become an SEO specialist, you become a UI UX designer, just the UX designer, the graphic designer you talk about, you can become an SEO specialist, and so on and so forth. So path, you start with, and then the different things are going to align well, and based on what are your preference. If I tell you right now, no, if you're doing web app development, become a web developer only. But then along the way you find interest in UI and you want to delve into that, will that be okay? So I am not defining you to any category right now. I'm giving you the liberty to choose from the path which is out there. You start with one thing and you see what interests you most. So I have a very good example of a student of mine. It's been months now, but then he started with full stack development, but he got interested more in what? Front end, and he's a successful front end developer right now. But initially he chose full stack development. So that has to come along the way as well. So I can only tell you what different paths are there, but based on your preference, your understanding, and your passion, maybe that has to come to you. Okay.
Understood. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we have another question very similar to this. So when you said that you can, while becoming a web full stack developer, you have to explore a lot of different fields. So could you please quickly help us understand what is the difference between a front end developer, a back end developer, and a full stack developer?
Okay, sure. So what any one of you think with backend? What do you understand with backend development? So backend is like the portion, you could say, of the iceberg below the surface, right? What you are not able to see, something that involves interacting with the data, manipulating that data and giving that data on the screen. So that is backend, something which is not visible to us. Now, without the backend, the web apps, the websites, they cannot function. They're just going to be just like, you could say, a display page. But if you're not giving the interactivity part, how the data is going to be handled, how it's going to come into play, and get displayed maybe at some point. Maybe, for example, let's say you have a button on your front end. Okay? It says click. You click on the button, you don't have any backend for it. Anything will happen on the front end? No. The backend is something that relates, the backend is something that provides you with data. It deals with servers, applications, DBs, etc. So that is backend development. To move into backend development, you have to work with backend technologies. Get the knowledge of backend technology, programming languages like Java, PHP, Python, Ruby, and so on with DB, and also get custom with DB as well. Okay, with backend DB also, you're dealing with data, you need to have a knowledge of SQL, no SQL, whatever you feel like. With the front end, it refers to the stuff on your web application, on your website that you see and interact with. Okay, what I see right now, maybe on this Zoom platform, on this whiteboard, let's say I'm on a whiteboard, what I see over here, I see a home button. I see two arrows for, going back and forth. I see an untitled whiteboard. That is a front end. What I see and interact with. It's the user interface that comes over here. That how it should look like. The rest of the thing, that if I go over here, I click here, I give some name, that name gets stored for this particular whiteboard session that I am having. That is done through a backend, So that's a different thing. You're not concerned about how this name is getting saved for it. Are you concerned about it? You're just concerned, I'm writing the name over here in the text box. So that is front end, where you're not concerned. You're just seeing what, a website looks like to you on the end. Full stack development is a combination of both backend and front end. Okay, where you learn to make a front end, make the UI, and also you handle the backend part. You also handle the data, the interactions, the servers, the application, and so on. Okay. I hope that clears up.
Right. Perfect.
Yeah.
I'll just quickly find, actually we can move on. I just want you to answer one more question, Swati.
Yeah, sure.
Which is, how does the career look like for a front-end developer? Because that's something that Komal wanted to ask. So not just the process, as in, is it something which is a booming industry? Is it something which is in demand? And, is it easy to land a job, or how good the job is going to be? How rewarding the job is going to be? So all these questions all at once.
Okay. Yeah. So, when you've embarked on this journey of learning, web development, the front end that you're talking about, it's actually a very, booming industry. It's not going anywhere. For a web development job, I would say that it's something that it's taking up its space, in the market. Everything that you'll see, it's now over the internet. Earlier, for maybe a basic example of, earlier we had our report cards, we had to go and collect it from the school, from our college. Now, do you have to go for that? No, I don't think. I don't go for it. My master's is all done online. Everything has been done online so far. And my degree has also come up. The exams are also done. So I don't see that we are ever going to backtrack from it. I'm only going to move forward in this direction, right? The world is moving forward into this direction of World Wide Web. You're not backtracking. So once over here, you've started with web development journey, you're going to land a entry level position, you would say, right? So you might become a front end, there are front end developer entry roles which you're going to get. and start working on. So then you are going to work for maybe like a year or so, maybe like a 2 years into the entry level role, what you say as a junior web developer. Then you are going to move forward to a senior role. You are going to progress to a senior role where you are going to, manage a team maybe, or, become a TL, kind of like that trajectory that you move forward. Or, from a junior, you move to a senior SSE, okay, for a front end developer. Then you go on to, start maybe after a few years of 2 to 3 years, you become a team lead. You come into a senior role where you're not actually performing much of a development part, but you're overseeing the whole team. You're seeing the whole process, it's happening correctly or not. So senior front end developers, they they become kind of like mentors for the junior team developers that come in. They are going to cooperate, you are going to cooperate with the developers which are there, which have just come under you, and you're going to work with a code. So the two people, the front end, the junior level, the senior level, they are going to work a lot on the code, on the project. When you're going to be promoted as maybe like TL or on a managerial level, you're not going to code a lot. You might code every now and then, maybe give them solutions to your team, but then you'll be more involved in the whole process, how the things are happening. Now you are at a higher level. I'm not just only talking about front-end development, I'm talking about for any engineering role, either you start as a front-end developer, you start at a full stack developer, you start as a back-end developer. This is the trajectory which basically follows. Now, once you are at a higher level where you're not, involved with the code, but that doesn't leave you that you are going to be idle all the time. I'll go to the office, I'm going to give some orders out. I know that doesn't involve that. Now you are the senior most person maybe in your team. You are going to instruct the front end developers, the other developers which are there, and you are the one who will be involved in the company's code base over there. You may report directly to maybe like HOEs, which are head of engineering over there, or the clients or the company stakeholders. So you are answerable to them. So your work doesn't stop. Once you stop coding at one point of time, that doesn't mean that you are just, going to the office to eat lunch. That doesn't happen. You are involved with stakeholders, you are involved with meetings, clients, you are involved in understanding the requirements maybe every now and then, what have come up. So it branches out like this. So after that, you move on to a senior most level where the stakeholders are involved, you decide on a budget maybe for your project. So that is the whole trajectory. So at the time you are at the senior most level, you'll be what I've seen, what I have, the path that I've followed. I've seen once you're at the top, the code interaction becomes less. So you might not be coding at one point of time, but that doesn't leave you that you don't have to upskill yourself every now and then. You need to know, okay, you have to remain in that position. So you have to upskill, you have to know what is happening in the system, you have to be aware about and get a knowledge of it. But you will not be directly coding, you will be maybe mentoring people on every now and then, enforcing. So a well-qualified developer, you are going to have an experience in JS frameworks, how to get started maybe over here, get an experience in JS frameworks like React, Angular, Node, have extensive knowledge of aesthetic development, of best practices, what are there to follow out. And you also have to, maybe at a junior level, I don't expect students, I don't expect the fresh grads to have that experience in creating complex web UIs. But then as you are going to proceed on while you are still, while you are working, you need to develop that, experience for building complex UIs as well, and also how you can work independently maybe or in a team. So sometimes you might be only working independently or just one person building a whole application. That is hardly ever a case, but that can also come up. So how you branch out on them. Okay. So the options that you can look for is full stack development, front end development, back end development, UX or the user experience or design, or the designer part, or you can also move into the digital marketing field over there. Okay.
Understood. Thank you, Swati.
So,
I would just like to take a couple of minutes here, to just to help you guys understand what we do here at Unikaksha. All right. So we have three different kinds of program, and we are basically into upskillment of someone who is from technology or someone who is coming from a non-IT background. So basically, we have Java full stack development, web full stack development, and data science and Python course, where we'll start from the scratch, even if you don't know anything. In 6 months, we will be, making you a job ready. So, the thing is that you might be looking forward for a career here, or you just want to upskill yourself. In both the cases, we have the course. Now, if at all you really want to have a career in web full stack development, it is really bright at this moment. I'll just quickly take an example of how we have done in Unikaksha. So our average package for students who are placed with us, I mean, we have upskilled them, we have aligned interviews for them. It is more than 8 lakhs per annum. And this is for a fresher that I'm talking about. We have students who have even got a package of 25 lakhs per annum. And this is for India I'm talking about. All right. So I'll just quickly share another poll that if you want to set up a one-on-one call with us, that's going to be a counseling session to understand, we have both live classes, we have recorded lectures. So if at all you're interested, we can have a call arranged so that you can get in touch with us. Um, all right. I'm sure that we here in this webinar are from IT and non-IT both. Um, just to give you a little context, even for a person who is not into IT, our course caters right from the beginning. So there have been incidences where people really wanted to learn IT and they didn't know about anything. They don't know even how to write a hello world code, and they have still got a really good placement. Okay. Um, all right. So last 5 seconds and we'll end this call, this post. All right. If we have any more questions that we can answer as well. All right. Okay. So I think we have a last question that we can answer, Swati. That someone has asked that they get really bored while learning programming. Um, what do you suggest for this is a question which can be answered case by case basis on the on basis on the schedule and how they want to learn. So a, how to not get bored while learning the programming, and what is a better way to learn, via video, via website, via course? Could you please help us answer this?
yeah, hi everyone. So, I mean, like, that's a very common question which comes, how means I get bored while coding and something, it's not just coming to me. Sure, there are red, blues, and purples on, IDs, and which makes it a lot of fun. You can always create your own boilerplate over there. You can, maybe when it's like, how we started with maths. I mean, like, I related with maths. I was not very good at maths at one point of time, but I had amazing teacher at one point, maybe when I was in 8th standard or 9th standard, who made it fun for me, who actually taught in such an engaging manner. So it became fun for me. And then I ended up topping in maths. That's a different. So I relate to coding something like that. Maybe right now you are not inclined towards it because you're not setting the right environment for learning, you know. Or maybe I won't blame the trainers. Don't say that, you might have not got a very good trainer over there. But to be assured of, we at Unigaksha, we are exceptionally trained trainers, those who make the classes fun and engaging with the concepts that come in, with the projects that we give, where you will be actually involved in coding for it. And where you'll find that when you're trying to code, when you're trying to build something, we can work on that. We work on, how do you make any complex concept even easy for you guys to understand. So that's one way of teaching, I would say, that we follow over here, how to break down the concepts and put forward, you could say, simpler approach of learning anything, right? Also, when you are learning, you have to be, or you have to think about, how can I approach this problem in a different manner? Maybe interacting with your peers, maybe working with groups is something that might help you if not working alone. You can travel around your tech stack and try to analyze what kind of technology or what tech stack you're most comfortable in working. So that is what I said, someone who started with full stack development, he got interested into front end development because he was able to navigate into that part. He was able to realize that maybe the whole FSD is not for me, just the React part is something that and he's actually very good with React. That's one example that I've seen, right? So I do not say that, you just get onto some coding back, different playgrounds like lead code or something and start coding from today itself. No, if you're something that you're not interested in right now, if you're something that you think, I'm not able to do it, it's not happening, right? Stop there, figure out exactly what's the problem, right? Stop there, figure out, try to see. Maybe the environment that you're trying to work in, it's like too cluttered. You need a good space, you need a calm space to work on, because it's actually something, the logical ability you need to put in your mind over there. If you're not putting the mind, you might think, I'm sitting on this problem from past 2 hours and it's not getting solved. Maybe the problem is somewhere in the environment as well. It's not always that key, I don't have that logical ability. We all have that logical ability to think about. Maybe something else. So when I say that you're not able to solve a problem, I really mean that you need to sit and analyze them, right? So I know we get bored. We all have got bored at one point or the other time trying to code, trying to find a solution. But I won't say that if this is the field that you really want to move into, getting bored is an option. There you need to analyze certain aspects. There you need to analyze some of the working environment, maybe. If you think that independent approach is not something I'm comfortable in, try to get into teams. You might have friends, try to code with them, do challenges along with them, and then you might find the right time. Talk to your instructors, your trainers, find that engaging crowd where you can engage, where you can discuss. Get onto the forums. There are different forums where you can discuss about coding and how to get started. So there is a whole lot of things and resources which are available that you can get into.
Right. Perfect. Okay, with that, I'll just answer one question which is asked by Shakil, and then we'll wrap this session up. So Shakil has asked that, is there any interview practice that we do? So I'll just quickly tell you how we do here, or what's the process in the course. So it's going to be a total of 6 months course for learnings, where we will, which of the course that you choose, either Java full stack development or web full stack development or data science with Python, we'll cater to that in the first 6 months. And then the next 3 months are going to be specifically for placements. So it will include your CV building, your mock interviews, how will you can make your GitHub accounts, and how we will build your portfolios. And then we will align your interviews in tech companies. So yes, we will take care of how you will, participate in interviews or how you can do better there. Because a lot of people know tech well, but they are not prepared for interviews. So we will take care of that as well. So for all of you who have, selected yes for wanting to go ahead and have a one-on-one with us, either me or someone from my team will get in touch with you. All right. I'll just wait for the next 10 seconds if you have any questions, or else we'll just wrap this session up. Hope this was a little informative for all of you. You have invested 1 hour of your time on a Saturday morning. Shakil, I think it's a little overboard of time. Let us get in touch with you and have your questions answered over the call. Is that all right? Because other questions are a little lengthy for you. All right, then. Thank you so much for everyone who joined in, and have a beautiful Saturday. Thank you. Have a good one.